My Bukusu grandmother. She was born during harvest time. That's why she was called Nekesa. While she was a girl, I'm told she used to entertain people. She used to make people very happy. So she adopted a new nickname which stuck more than her real name. And the new nickname that stuck was Nanjeho. Nanjeho is a person who brings joy to others, especially a woman. If we have to talk in English, then we could say that her name was Joy. Now I'm confused here because the way I knew my grandmother, either that was exaggerated or the standard of bringing joy those days is not similar to the standard of joy today. But anyway, she became Nanjeho. She was from the Baengele clan. Plural is Baengele. Singular is Muengere. She was the paternal aunt, shangazi, to Wamalwa Mzee. Well, that is what I've said, Wamalwa Mzee. If someone says he's Wamalwa Kijana, then his father must be Wamalwa Mzee. So she was the paternal aunt to the father to Wamalwa Kijana. She was Hwatenge's third wife. She was Hwatenge's third wife. Hwatenge had 4 wives. The first wife was called Wakoli. Wakoli was a widow whom Hwatenge had inherited from a clan brother. So Wakoli died ahead of Hwatenge, but even if Wakoli would have overlived Hwatenge, she could not have been called Hwatenge's widow. In our tradition, a woman can remarry every time she gets widowed, but she can never be called the widow of the second or subsequent husband. She will always be called the widow of the first husband. So even though Wakoli died ahead of Hwatenge, if she would have died after Hwatenge, she could not be called Kwa Hwatenge. The second, she was from Makangala clan of the Kabras. The second wife of Hwatenge was Mwito. Mwito, I've forgotten her Kabras clan, but she was the second wife, and she's the only one who used to be called Kwa Hwatenge, Hwatenge's widow. She was the second wife. Not because she was the eldest married wife of Hwatenge, no, I'll tell you. She was the only one who lived her life being called Hwatenge's widow, Kwa Hwatenge. I had the first wife, whom I said Wakoli, is the grandmother to Hachiti, Mrs. Hachiti Chesoni. So, the Chief Justice is my nephew. The second one I said Mwito. She was from the Kabras tribe, but I've forgotten the sub-tribe. I've forgotten the clan. She was the one who was called Kwa Hwatenge. That is Hwatenge's widow. The third wife was my grandmother, Nekesa, alias Nanjeho, and she had so many nicknames. She was a Mwengere, but was never referred to as JI-TENGE's widow. The reason is, I'll tell you later. The fourth and last wife was Mukwambo, but was nicknamed Wanjiko. I don't know why they gave her a Kikuyu name, but she was a Ugandan from the Gisu tribe. They separated with JI-TENGE and she got married elsewhere. So when she became widowed, Mukwambo, she was called the widow of the new husband because with JI-TENGE she had differed. Now back to my grandmother. After getting married to my grandfather, she had a lot of kids. Nobody ever told me how many they are, but I'm told those who died were more than those who lived. And those who lived into remembrance were 3 sons and 3 daughters. Coincidentally, just like my mother's side, daughters were born and then sons were born. So the eldest of the surviving children was Auntie Haoya. Auntie Haoya was married to somebody who was nicknamed Natembea. As I said, Natembea is not a real name, but it is a name of somebody yule alikuwa anapiga njaru wakati wa kazi. Then mzungu would come and say, wewe unatembea tembea. Mrs. Natembea, who was called Haoya, was the eldest, followed by Nedima. Nedima was born during farming. Kulima, Nedima, kulima, farming. Farming, preparing land for farming. Then the third born, or for those who survived, was Kureta Nahendo. Kureta is the corruption for the name Coleta. She's the third one. And then the 3 sons who survived, who stayed for perpetuity because they can be traced. The eldest was Andrew Kwalanda. Then Japheth Lando. And lastly was Makoha. In Luhya tradition, just like Nabongo Mumia, that was not his name. I've just told you of how Luhyas, you acquire a nickname and it sticks more than your real name. Just like so many people knew my grandmother as Nanjeho, but they did not know that she was Nekesa. Nabongo Mumia was called Makoha, but the nickname Mumia stuck so much that it became more than his real name. So there was Papa Andrea, that is Andrea Kwalanda, Papa Japheth Lando, and Papa Makoha. Makoha means a lady gives birth to children, they die, they are named after ancestors, they die, whatever. So Makoha is a way of appeasing the ancestors by saying that this is Majivu or Ash. That is where the name Makoha is. And as I've said, my father was given a Luo name because of 2 things. The first thing is that all ancestors who are named, they refused to come back to life. And so he had to be given a stranger's name. And coincidentally, the district clerk of the then Nyanza district started from Mount Elgon all the way to Kericho, had visited JI-TENGE. JI-TENGE was a H1, village elder stage 1. And so he was sleeping at JI-TENGE's place when Lando was born, and the Luo was called Orlando. That's why my father was given a Luo name. Then the last one was Makoha. Makoha died, I'm told. If I do my own estimation, I would say Makoha was preteen. Preteen. When he died, his mother, my grandmother, cried a lot and moaned a lot until people said, hey, she's crying the way a widow cries to her husband. Hey, then we should call her Kwa Makoha, the widow of Makoha. So my grandmother got the name Kwa Makoha. That is, even when my grandfather died, my grandmother was never called Kwa JI-TENGE because the name Kwa Makoha had stuck. I was her favorite grandchild. No, let me correct it. I was her favorite grandchild. I was her favorite paternal grandchild. I can say that she preferred her daughter's children more than her son's children. That was obvious. But when it came to her son's children, I was her favorite. She had a cordial relationship with 5 of her children, but I remember she did not have a cordial relationship with Auntie Nedima. It's a long story, I can't go into that, but she did not transfer her differences to Nedima's children. She treated Nedima's children as though she was treating the other children. But without any fear of contradiction, she preferred Aunt Haoya, Mrs. Natembea's children more than all of us. Maybe because I never found Aunt Haoya. She died before I was born. And because the children were being mistreated by their stepmother, they were brought to our home. So she brought them up. But her most confident person was Joseph Sapiri Wasike, who ended up as a police officer, the son of Natembea. He was her favorite and confident. He had the capacity of standing up at noon, telling her, Shosho, you see that sun there? That is not sun, that is the moon, and she'll believe it is the moon. That one is what I saw. But on her paternal grandchildren, I was her favorite. I could say I was her favorite on 2 courses. One, I was named JI-TENGE. So named JI-TENGE, I was named after her husband. And that one brought me closer to her. She used to annoy me. Whenever she would call me, she would hug me, she would call me her husband. But then I was too young. I did not understand. You see, she was calling me her husband because I was named after her husband. But me, I used to see hii mnyanya mzee calling me her husband. I did not approve that. The other thing is that my father, being a very senior police officer, county police commander in today's language, he single-handedly financed her stay, and he single-handedly financed the stay of his sister's children, that is Haoya's children. And of course my mother was also there, and she's the one who used to facilitate whatever funds that used to come from my father. And there is always this closeness between the wife of your youngest son and the mother and the mother-in-law. So that is how we were very close. And when it came to the person she hated most was Edward Kwalanda JI-TENGE. He's also a former police officer. There are 2 reasons why she did not like him. Any problem that came, You see, in Kenyan law, they say that you are innocent until proven guilty. But according to my grandmother, Edward was guilty until proven innocent, and even after he's been proven innocent, he was still guilty. This had to do with, first of all, the father. There was this negative attitude that I've seen many people do, that when you have two or more sons, and one of them has a deep pocket, like my father, and the other one had no pocket even in the first place, like Papa Andrea Kwalanda, JI-TENGE, many parents detest the son who is poor. The other reason is my father was all over the country. 3 years is here, he's transferred, 3 years there. So he hardly stayed at home. And my Papa Kwalanda used to stay at home throughout. So you see, that was a second reason. Another reason is that Papa Kwalanda had this character, which is positive, of telling you what you needed to hear. And my father had this character that he believed he never questioned his parent. I don't know about his father, because I was born 5 to 6 years after he died. But I remember every time he would come on leave or an off, the first thing he used to he liked coming late, 5 to 6. Then after staying at home around 7, he would tag me along. We would go to my grandmother's place. And one thing I noticed is that whenever they talked, one, there was no eye contact. Maybe that is why I've adapted that. When we talk serious things with you, don't expect me to have eye contact with you. I find it very hard. My father never had eye contact with my grandmother, because I remember my father used to talk. They used to talk when my father used to look down. My grandmother would stay next to the fireplace. She would be feeding in firewood into, and she would be telling my son this and this and this. And my father would just be quiet. You hear he says yes. But the negative thing about it is that as much as I remember, she rarely talked positive about anybody or anything. She would be rewriting Lamentation, the book of Lamentation. Oh, these people are bad. Those people are bad. I'll not mention them because they are still have their relatives who are alive. She would spend all that time and say, "What? Do you hear?" My father would say, "Now niuli remai," which means, she would talk in Bukusu, and my father would answer in Kitachoni. She would ask him, "Have you heard them?" They say, "Mom, I've heard." Continue, continue, continue. Then she would say, "My child, that is all that I had to say." Then my father would pocket, remove a known amount, give it to her, then go away. So she preferred him because he never questioned her, and Kwalanda used to tell her exact his feeling. That is why he was. But then there is a third thing that made her hate Edward Kwalanda, the son. There was a day Edward had a brand new 10-cent coin, and he gave it to grandmother and said it is a shilling. It was shining. Those years, for a brand new 10 cents or even a shilling to arrive in Oshago, it used to take a long time. But then somehow it arrived, and he gave her that 10 shillings, 10 cents. And she was about to give him 10 cents. As she was doing so, Sapiri came. "Hey, Kuhu!" Grandmom. Now, Sapiri was a Bukusu. Grandmom was a Bukusu. So Sapiri told, "Hey, grandma, you are being conned. That is a brand new 10 cents. Edward didn't wait for and Hassan took off. And you see, from taking the way he took off, was obvious that he had committed a crime. So from that time, anything happening, as I've said, in Kenyan law, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But to my grandmother, Edward was guilty until proven innocent, and even when proven innocent, he was still guilty. Now, there is one thing I want to tell you that happened, and please don't laugh. My grandmother had about 2 acres of banana, traditional banana, and she had second large pots, 7, yeah, there were 7 large pots, and each of them she would place their bananas. She would harvest banana, place them there, then cover with banana leaves, and then cover with cow dung. When she covered it with cow dung, she would, there are 7, so she knew at any given time that this pot, the bananas were ripe for eating and selling. I remember 3 of them used to cost a 10 cent. So every day she had one pot that was ready. Nyungu. She had one nyungu ready for sale. And one day I wanted the bananas, but she was not near. So I went and opened that. And you see, opening, you have already interfered with the air cycling and so on and so on. And when I found the the banana was not ready, I went to the second one, and she caught me on the third one. She caught me red-handed. And she went out and started shouting, Edward has, she would call Edward Itwati. Itwati has stolen my bananas. Me, I went there and told her, no, shush. It is me who has done. No, 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 you have not done it. People came. And Edward was nowhere to be seen. And actually, he found out about his alleged stealing about 5 to 6 hours after it had happened. So people came, I was there. Somebody who had been caught red-handed stealing, but he was still insisting. And when I was telling ladies there that no, it is not Edward, it was me who was stealing at whatever, she turned to me and said, why are you trying to cover up for your brother? So that is how it was. And my grandmother was very tough. Both my 2 grandmothers, the Kikuyu, and those are people whom were like cobras. She could be very harmless, looking the other direction, but it would take her seconds to be annoyed. So my grandmother went to be with the Lord a week after I had done my primary certificate of education. Thank you.